So let's go to the message. We've been talking about Joseph and Asenath, even more about Joseph. It's a great story. And today we will speak a little more about him and the theme, temptations that destroy love life. Temptations. When we talk about temptations, what comes to mind right away is the idea of sex, specifically when we refer to love life. But it's not the only temptation, as you will understand here. Temptation, in a general way, I believe, are one of the problems the least spoken about and what affects the most in love life. Usually, temptations are something we don't talk about and their consequences in the love life. But if you think about temptations in the way we'll explain today here, learning from Joseph's story, such as a banana peel on the ground. If you see a banana peel on the floor, you step on it, you know you'll take a very hard fall. If you think about temptations as a slippery slope, if you set foot on the top of the slope and there is a slippery, very steep slope and it is full of oil, greasy, and you step on that, you will get smashed down there. All it takes is a first step and you'll get smashed. Likewise are the temptations in our life in general, as it also is in love. How many people nowadays, for instance, have a baggage of destroyed marriages, and everything started with a temptation? The men got involved with the woman at work. He couldn't resist the looks. He couldn't resist her charm, the conversations. They got too close to one another. It began with flirting. It started with a small message, and we saw where that led. How many women got emotionally involved with a coworker, with their boss, their client, with someone over the internet, and they thought they didn't love their husband anymore and were destroyed, left children. Anyway, destroyed the marriage. How many had to deal with an unwanted pregnancy because of temptation? How many today are addicted to pornography? They're doing drugs, alcohol. They're dealing with very serious consequences from something that happened due to a temptation that they didn't recognize or resist. It was the banana peel they stepped on, the slippery slope they stepped on. Until today, they are at the bottom. So there are many people like this, having a destroyed love life because they didn't understand being single or married, because they didn't understand the importance of knowing how to deal with temptations.
And we see that temptation today, it's so much more aggressive. Because in the past, temptation happened, and it needed to happen in person. The person needed to be in a place with certain people and all. But today, temptation comes into your house through your cell phone, through movies, everything that you have today, that you have access to today, to the internet. So temptation became like a neighbor, let's say. Everybody has temptation as a neighbor. And people, they ended up getting used to temptation because it's something that has happened so much, so many people falling into temptation. Many people don't know how to deal with temptation. So it became something, that you can say everybody does it. Oh, it happens. Oh, he got involved with a woman in his job. Oh, It happens. Oh, she started to have contact with this man on the internet who was there writing to her on social media. Sometimes they're not even from the same place, from the same country. You hear this so much nowadays that people started seeing this as something normal. But temptation is something that does you bad. It harms us. Because temptation is not making you do something good. Temptation is negative. It's going to lead you to do something wrong. So an intelligent person needs to learn to identify temptation and not just accepting temptation, accepting and opening the door and, embracing, inviting in temptation to come into your life.
As we are saying, it is not only about sex. Many people are in debt today because they couldn't resist the temptation of a sale. Right? How many people swipe their credit card? It's very tempting to swipe the credit card, right? It's tempting to swipe the credit card, right? It's tempting when someone tells you can pay for that in 6 installments without interest. Person right there, the eyes wanting for a reason, does something, then later on they will pay a high price for not resisting, for not thinking and saying, I cannot do this now. It's not right to do this now.
Sometimes they fall into temptation because, they're seeing a lot of things, they're wanting something that they see on social media. There's people who live like that, who live, promoting a life that many people don't have, that are people who are always traveling, using, a lot of shoes, cars, bags. So the person, they're being tempted there too. They follow these people. They follow temptation, they actually follow in temptation. So they're being tempted. And there, the person's being tempted. So, they see that life of the influencer there that, that lives, on the other side of the world, who is, has that nice tan in the middle of the pandemic, nice tan at the beach. And then the person, they look at their house, they see their kids, making a mess, the husband with his shirt, all the way up, his belly button showing, right? Like eating popcorn. And then she's like, so then she starts thinking, I want to be happy. And then she starts to think that there that she sees is being happy. How many women have done this? Men as well. Women have wanted the life of other women who live for that we're talking about. And they have put aside family, I don't have time for children, for husband, for no one, because I need to take care of my looks. She invests in plastic surgery, in shopping, invest in she travels, she leaves her kids, her family, she travels because she wants to have a life that she saw on the internet, because that to her was a temptation. Temptation, it makes you not to think much. You don't think. You're being taken, we could say. It's like something that's luring. That's luring you. And many people, they don't realize this. That, today we live in a world of temptation. It can be fashion. Fashion, it promotes temptation. Fashion promotes temptation. A woman, many times, uses clothes that is to call attention of the opposite sex. And she's going to call attention of the opposite sex. And the opposite sex is going to be a married man, a man who's well married. And she knows that. But in the name of fashion, or, it's fashion to use this, because it's my body, I show what I want, what's the problem? She comes with all these arguments. And temptation doesn't do good. It doesn't do good for the person that is doing it, nor for the person that's a victim. Sometimes a woman, she's there, she has a problem in her marriage, and she goes to work, and there's a man there who starts being very cool with her. Oh, you're so pretty. The husband doesn't say anything. But then that friend at work said, look nice today. He even says, oh, your husband is so lucky. And then she starts to be tempted. She starts to be tempted there. He's wanting to sometimes, he doesn't want to marry her, make her happy. He wants to take advantage of her. And she's thinking, oh, a man values me. Meaning many people, they even want temptation. She gets all dressed to go to work to, gain some compliments from that guy at her job. She wants the temptation because she feels bad. But temptation is not there to do good for you.
Yes, you will never see or feel tempted, for instance, to do good. You'll always feel tempted to do evil, to do what is wrong. For instance, you don't see anyone feeling tempted to go to the corner and take home a dirty homeless person and say, I feel tempted to take home that homeless person, give him a bath, and give him some food. You won't see anyone feeling tempted to do that, to feel tempted to do it. Isn't it? I feel so tempted to pay my cousin's debts. I can't resist it. I feel tempted to bring my mother-in-law to live with me. Have you noticed? No one feels tempted to do good. People are only tempted to do bad. That's why it's a temptation. So that's why you need to be alert. If I am being tempted, probably it is to do something wrong. If I need to hide it from others, then it's even more wrong, right? I need to be very attentive to it because usually temptation starts subtly and it becomes with a single thought. What if? What if? It's just imagination. I won't do it. But what if it's all the devil needs? When he suggests something and sees that people responded, they gave him something as little as millimeters of inclination. Yeah, maybe. That's it. He knows he can continue. The devil knows he can invest there because people were shaken, and the devil knows the human being way more than the human being knows himself. The devil has been on this earth for thousands of years. He has seen it all, and he knows what to do to tempt. The name devil, one of its meanings is tempter, one who tempts. So it is his specialty to lead the human being to temptation. That is why, for instance, in the matter of cheating, the act of cheating starts with temptation. You see people that always disapprove of cheating, who always said, my father cheated on my mother cheated on my father, I'll never do that. And all of a sudden, they see themselves doing it. Why is that? Because they didn't know how to deal with temptation. It started with small thoughts and then went on to flirting, and all of a sudden, they were already caught up. So it's important in the matter of cheating. The Bible says the couple's intimacy needs to be healthy, full, and constant. You who are married, your marital life, the frequency and quality of your sexual life has to be healthy. It needs to be satisfying for both of you. It cannot be like, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. Because the Bible talks about it. If you read later on 1 Corinthians 7, Paul talks about this sexual temptation. At times, people in the first church were using religious devotion as an excuse not to have intimacy with their spouse. Some people were saying, I will consecrate myself, I will fast, I will dedicate myself to prayer, so I won't have sex with my wife, my husband. And Paul said the following: it's okay to consecrate yourself, to fast for God, as long as your spouse agrees to it. He said, you cannot take this decision on your own. You need to check with your spouse first. Do you agree? We will be in abstinence for a week or so. Do you accept it? I want to consecrate myself. I want to dedicate myself to God to do a fast. If your spouse accepts it, then you can do it. But even though you do it, it should not be for too long. Don't make it for too long, for you not to be tempted. It's written right there. And today, many people cheat and commit adultery because they neglect it. They didn't take care of their intimacy. And this is a thermometer of a couple's life. You need to be active, constant, and have good quality sex life. Usually, every couple has differences in the frequency. One wants to be more frequent than the other one, but both need to find a middle ground and learn to make this something pleasant and not a burden. Both the man and the woman. You don't keep an active sexual life to satisfy yourself only, but to satisfy the other one. Because if your goal is to satisfy the other one and vice versa, then it will never ever be a burden to anyone. And it's something created by God. And it's something, let's say, not a foolproof antidote that will guarantee that cheating will never happen if a couple maintains an active sexual life. But it reduces by much the need to look for something outside when you already have inside something very good.
And another thing as well, Renato, talking about this, is that for a marriage to have intimacy at the end of the day, there has to be, attention, care the whole day, right? So attention that sometimes you don't give, husband, to your wife. Attention, compliments, care. Because a woman needs this. It's something, it's something of a woman. She needs attention. That's not going to change. That's not going to change. She needs attention. And if a husband is not giving her attention, it's going to be difficult for him later on to want something. Because for her, it starts with attention. It's not just, a button. Oh, it's time. It's time for intimacy. Let's go. It's not like that. So many women, they've had this difficulty in this area of their life because they don't have that part that the husband does the whole day. Sometimes he treats her, indifferent. He doesn't help with anything. He doesn't compliment. He's cold. He doesn't notice anything about her. And at the end of the day, he wants, So then she feels as if she's something automatic, and she doesn't want that. She's not like that. So sex needs care, needs attention. Everything that you sometimes don't give much value to because you think, oh, that was just while we were dating. But in a marriage, that is very necessary. So that she can be in the same climate as that moment. There has to be a climate. We're talking here about something that is necessary, that needs to happen in a marriage, but there has to be that moment. So you have to prepare that moment. You have to create that moment. The same thing with a woman. Sometimes the woman, she wants to resolve problems from that day in a time that she's supposed to make a moment with her husband at night. She's supposed to be there, getting ready for the moment, and she wants to talk about the bills. So meaning that completely breaks that moment, then it becomes difficult.
Aí fica difícil.
I think the word is to go limp. Let's talk openly. It's very tempting for couples, excuse me, single ones, for speaking about this subject, but you'll practice this later on. It's very tempting for couples to occupy their time, a time they should be together, today, with other things. For example, it's easier for you to be watching TV. It's easier for men to go to the restroom, get the cell phone, and satisfy himself with pornography. It's easier. There's no need to invest. This thing about preparing your night during the day, it's immediate. I want it now. There's no need to. It's easier. But the easier way will always lead you to the hard way. The easier way will always lead you to the hard way. The easier way is tempting. The temptation, it seems easy, but it will take you to the hard way. And what seems to be more difficult is what takes you to the easier ones. So you need to resist the temptation. Every time you say, oh, I'm tired. I'm tired. The temptation is the bed. Now the bed is my temptation. I want to go to sleep. I'm tired. My cell phone, the children. Something will always come up. You need to prioritize. And you need to take care of this. This is a gap evil has found among couples nowadays. So nowadays, it's very common to find marriages with no sex. And one of the reasons we get married is to have sex. Did I say something wrong? You didn't know about it. Well, now you do. Women need to know this, and so do men, because men many times get the fame he wants and women don't. But sometimes it's the opposite. Women want it and the men don't. Men are the ones falling short. Then it needs to be. It's not a burden, as I said. When things are done in the right way as God instructed, it's not a burden. It's the good kind of temptation. You need to become an expert in tempting your wife, tempting your husband. This is the good temptation. Tempting your husband into wanting to grab you. Tempting your wife, wanting you to grab her. You need to be tempted. This is the good temptation inside marriage. But going deeper than that, only in our workshop named Sex in a Bulletproof Marriage,
Talking a bit about this
watch it.
For the singles, because you're talking, easier. Pornography is something easier for the singles, because they say, I don't have anyone, I'm going to use pornography. But pornography is going to end with your sexual life in marriage. Because pornography, it makes someone addicted. So you need to understand the following. I want to prepare myself so that when I'm with someone, and not mess everything up when I'm with someone. Because pornography does that. It messes up everything. It distorts everything. Everything that you're going to wait for after marriage, it's going to be connected with pornography, and that there is not true. It's not reality. That doesn't do good. It's not something healthy. So it's better for you to be without it. And whenever you want, go pray, go read the Bible, go play sports.
Cold shower.
For you to already start preparing yourself for marriage. And this, I speak to women and to men and women as well, because today women, unfortunately, they've become also addicted to pornography.
But let's speak about Joseph, who went through it. Temptations. The Holy Scriptures say, now Joseph was well built and handsome. That means he was a handsome, strong, attractive guy. And his master's wife, right? Potiphar, He was a slave in this man's house. His master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "My master does not know what it is with me in the house, and he has committed all he has to my hand. There is no one greater in this house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me but you, but because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Look at Joseph's behavior in regard to that woman's indecent proposal. That means I cannot commit this mistake with your husband, my master. I won't betray his trust because her husband, Potiphar, had trusted everything in Joseph's hand. Joseph was someone competent. Wherever he was, he would always rise to the first place. He became the main servant in this man's house, who was Pharaoh's head general guard, an important man. So he said, "I won't betray my master, let alone my God." It was not that he didn't want to. You can rest assured that the flesh, every cell in Joseph's virile body, must have asked him to go to bed with that woman. No doubt, he was not gay. He was a man. He wanted to go to bed with her. But inside him was the fear of God. There was loyalty. He said, "I cannot do this against my boss, and let alone to God. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" So it was, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not heed her to lie with her or to be with her. So he avoided her. He avoided being with her. One day he went into the house to attend his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. You see, for sure, she set him up. She planned not to have anyone at that day, at that time. She caught him by his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. That means when the woman is in the mood for it,
But it
it's
speaks about
complicated.
her there in that verse that she put her eyes on Joseph, which is a way, sometimes the person, they fall into temptation because they start to look at that a lot. And you see here the opposite in Joseph. Joseph avoided that. She was always looking to his beauty, to his youth, and he was always avoiding it, avoiding being by her, meaning two different reactions, opposite. One wants to fall into temptation, one is looking for it, running after it, meaning it wasn't meaning, if she saw, "Oh, Joseph is beautiful, so I'm not going to be looking." Sometimes the person is there, it's like if they want,
Flirting with
they're
sin.
flirting.
Joseph didn't flirt with sin. He was in a situation where there was nothing he could do because he was a slave there. He didn't have a choice. He couldn't quit or say, "Oh, I'm leaving here. I'm being harassed." That's harassment. He couldn't do it, so he had to deal with that situation. What was he doing? He was avoiding her. But she was after him. So he went through injustice because later on, if you continue reading the passage, she claimed, did the hashtag me too, and said, she said, "He attacked me. He tried to rape me." He was thrown in jail. Joseph stayed in jail. He stayed in jail for years for this false accusation. He moaned, but God honored him because after he came out of jail, in the same day and straight out of jail, he went on to be Egypt's governor. And Pharaoh chose a woman for him as a wife. So in one day, in that same day, everything changed in Joseph's life because he was faithful. Faithful. Everything changed. And then there came Asenath in the story of his life. And we'll talk more about her next week. But He was a God-fearing man. And what is the best way to deal with temptation? The Word of God teaches us. She said, turn away from evil for you not to be overcome by temptation. You need to turn away from it. To turn away from its appearance. Not only from it, but just the appearance. It seems to be. I don't know if it is or not. Flee from it. This is how we overcome temptation. We shouldn't flirt with temptation. Oh, I will see how it is. I am in control. I can resist. No, don't play games with it. Temptation is like a banana peel. You won't step on it and see if you can keep standing. You will avoid it. And this is what needs to be done. You see, in the Lord's Prayer, He taught us in the end of the prayer, in the Lord's Prayer, to ask daily and lead us not into temptation. In truth, the word's meaning is enter in temptation. It's not lead us, it's to enter. Because if you go in, falling down is easy. You need to watch to not enter in temptation. And this is what Joseph did. Resisted. He fled. Can you imagine a young guy, handsome, manly, and a woman saying, come here right now. I want you. Come lie with me. Single. And he said, no. Only by the fear of God. Only by fearing God, one would resist this kind of temptation. But God honored him, blessed him. And this is how we need to conduct our lives. It's the temptation to scream, fight with your wife. You're right there fighting, arguing. Then the temptation comes. I'm leaving from here. I'm getting my things. I'm going away. I will shut the door. I will go away. I'll go to the bar. I'll sleep on the couch. I will sleep in the living room. There comes the temptation to do something which is wrong. It won't solve the fights in your marriage, but at the time, that's what you feel like doing. And the devil is right there. That's right. Beat her up. Attack her. Kick him. Call his mother's name. The devil tries everything. And if you don't recognize temptation, you will fall. And once you fall, there's no way to unfall. After you fall, there's no way to unfall. There are ways to rise up. You have already fallen. There is no way to unfall.
To stop always using the same arguments that you were weak. Because it's not that you were weak. You didn't run away from temptation. You saw temptation and you wanted to go through it. You wanted to look for it. Many people, they fall into temptation and they say, oh, it's because in that moment I was weak. I was weak. No, it's because you didn't fear God. You saw temptation. You saw that that person was with other intentions. You saw that there was not appropriate for you to do. And even then you went there and you flirted. You even said, oh, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to fall. And then you fell. The Bible is very clear about that we need to run away from the appearance. So if you don't want to fall into temptation, you need to run away from the appearance of evil. But if you deep down, you don't care, you don't fear God, deep down you say, oh, I don't care. You're not going to run away, and you're always going to give this excuse saying, oh, I was weak. Oh, because she was, there, he was there, and I was with a problem in my marriage. You know how it is with the singles, it's hard. You're always going to give an excuse because in reality, you don't want to recognize the main problem. You don't fear God. Because Joseph, he had this reaction, he fled because he feared God. He feared God. He thought, I can't lose God. I'm here. I'm by myself. There's nobody here. I don't have family. I have no one. But I have God. I can't lose him. And I know that if I do this, I'm going to lose him. My boss might never know. Nobody might ever know. But I know that God knows. So the main thing here for you to flee from the appearance of evil is your relationship with God. It's your fear of God. People ask, oh, but how can you deal with the thirst, with temptations? It's this. That's what we do. Fear of God. Fear of God. I'm always thinking that God is looking at me. God is watching. He's here. He's watching. So you're not playing around because you know that God is watching.
Problems are to be confronted, but temptations are to be avoided. We should flee from them. You don't confront temptation. Don't trust yourself saying, I can control it. I will get to a certain point and stop. We flee from temptation, not confront them.